Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Behavior. I am Zoe. I'm back with Hannah.
Hi.
We were just together for about 48 hours.
Yeah.
And then we were apart, and now we're back together again.
Thank God.
Which is after being apart for so long.
Right.
During the holiday season,
Blessed.
we're just right back at it,
Yeah.
doing our thing. I'm sure, Hannah and I are both wearing our matching Ford Performance sweatshirts. We just got back from Charlotte yesterday, which was such a fun trip. At the end of this episode, we'll recap our Charlotte experience and all that we got up to. We have lots more content coming from Charlotte in the coming days and weeks, so stay tuned for that. We'll get into all of that fun stuff. But I figure we should talk about some news that's happened in F1 because obviously last week we did our predictions. We didn't really dive into what's currently going on in Formula One. I guess we kind of did a little bit, but I wanted to start out by talking about all of the Lewis Ferrari content that we've gotten over the last week or so.
Yeah. Today, as we're recording this, is also the anniversary of the day that we found out.
Yes, exactly. It is the 1-year anniversary since we found out that Lewis would break the internet and go to Ferrari, which was truly a monumental day. What did you think of all the photos? Like the first photo that dropped of him with the suit in front of...
I mean, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
No notes.
It was
brilliantly executed. He looked flawless. Just stunning.
It felt like, when a movie comes out or a movie's about to come out and they drop that first photo that kind of breaks the internet. This is what that felt like.
It did, and this is dramatic, but it felt like there was a shift in the world.
Yes. It just was like, damn,
Seismic,
and this is why whenever people try to sort of, I mean, of course we can compare, we can contrast drivers, but this to me really proves that there is one and only Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Only him, only he could pull this kind of, and not pull it off, but just create this kind of moment with this team change, seeing him in the Ferrari red suit for the very first time. I think so many people couldn't imagine it. I think when the news came out last year, as you said, I think a lot of people felt like, I can't picture Lewis in Ferrari red, and then you see it, and it fits. It's
correct.
Works.
Yeah, well, and I saw a clip from the red flags. I think Matt was like, basically saying that, like, all of you who said, like, can't picture it, like, can you picture it now? And it's like, well, yeah, of course now, because it's physically there, but also it feels weird that this hasn't been what he's done the whole time.
Yes.
Like, it like suits him in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
But I'm so pumped. Like, shout out to the Ferrari social/creative team. The whole launch has been so excellent.
Epic. Absolutely
so
epic.
Good.
Then we got content of Lewis and Charles Leclerc together.
Yep.
Doing some photo shoots, promo.
Father,
again.
son.
A lot of people were, because in the photo of Lewis and Charles Leclerc does look quite tall next to Lewis. I don't know if you noticed that. And we got some people messaging us like, wait a second, is Charles Leclerc tall? And I have to, I think it's honestly that Lewis is actually kind of small.
Yeah. He is shorter than you would think he would be because he exudes such a presence.
Yes.
But he is much shorter than you expect. And not that Charles Leclerc is like, towering, but I do think he's probably taller.
Yeah.
Because we're probably taller than Lewis.
As someone who has stood very close to Charles Leclerc, he's about my height, maybe like a little bit taller.
Yeah.
Than me.
And
I would guess he's 5'10", 5'11".
We weren't right next to him, but Lewis appears to be a small amount shorter than us.
But he's like
maybe
5.
Like an inch.
I was going to say he's probably about 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah.
That's my guess. So, and then, obviously perspective, I think Charles was a little bit standing a bit more in front.
Sure.
Lewis was a bit more in back. That affects obviously how you view height and stuff. So
perspective.
Perspective is key. Perspective is key. Exactly. And then they got the cars out on track. There was a big story. I shouldn't say big, but there was a story that Lewis crashed during this testing experience, which people were like, "Oh my God,
it's all over."
It's this is what happens. You push to the absolute limit of the car. He's learning, he's figuring it out. I actually think it's probably good that he's
of course. And also it's like he's just a kid in a candy shop right now. Like he's living out his dream. He's he's full send at the moment.
Yes, exactly.
And then there was the which I feel a little iffy about the comparison, but the Troy Bolton, Chad Danforth comparison.
Let's get into that.
Because
for High School Musical.
Oh yeah, for those
of you
who don't know, it's a really important trilogy on this podcast.
They took a photo of Zac Efron as Troy Bolton. What's his
Corbin
name?
Blue.
Corbin
Yeah,
Blue.
I had a blitz
Thank you. As Chad Danforth, and then the picture of Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton. Now, obviously,
right.
Lewis Hamilton.
It's relatively insulting, or could be perceived as relatively insulting. I think it was more just the iconic nature of the lineups.
The iconic duos, right? Because we have Troy and Chad are an iconic duo. Now, Troy in the film High School Musical was obviously the star, and Chad was the sidekick.
Yeah,
you cannot say that Lewis Hamilton is the sidekick.
Right,
they
and
are
we can't
equal stars.
Yeah, and
equal billing.
Right, and the fashion that Chad showed, not what Lewis is doing.
Would
obviously,
Lewis, would Lewis wear the shirt? What was that? There was one that was very funny that Chad wore. That was like something about vacation or something.
Yeah, permanent, like always on vacation or something. And I was just like, ick. Like, but that was so of the times. Lewis would never be caught dead wearing something like that. But yeah, I just thought it was funny, and we laughed about picturing Charles doing from High School Musical 3 the scream sequence, which I think if you haven't seen it, definitely see it, and then picture Charles doing that, and it was very
specifically after Monaco 2022 was it when he did do a blood curling scream on the radio or freak out when they messed up his pit stop. That would be what he would perform. He'd go in the movie, Troy Bolton is going back into his high school. He's putting on his jersey. He's doing some choreography with some basketballs.
He doesn't have a shirt on. We only see his back because of the G-rated
nature. Then he puts the jersey on.
Right, of course.
This would be Charles Leclerc going back to the Monaco garages, like in the evening post race,
right, just trying to contemplate everything that's happened.
Yes, and then he puts on his race suit.
Yeah, and then but there's one moment in I believe it's the first movie where, for those of you who haven't seen it, I highly urge you to watch the trilogy because it's fantastic. But they meaning Troy and Chad are in detention, and they're also exploring being in the musical, so they're painting sets as part of the and Coach Bolton, who is Troy's father, is looking for them, and he comes bursting into the auditorium, and he's like, "What are those two doing sitting in a tree?" And that's Fred Vasseur. And I just think it paints such a beautiful picture that Fred Vasseur is Coach Bolton, and specifically like the outfit that I imagine him being in is the blazer and tennis shoes he wore during the launch of Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. And I would love for them to recreate it. I can't imagine that they would, and I can't imagine that many people would remember that reference. That's one that we joke about often.
But also, then we were talking about who is Miss Darbus in this whole situation.
Yeah, and I'm still not really sure.
We don't really know. There's a lot of people we would need to cast in this F1 to High School Musical pipeline story, but I think if in the F1 rewrite of this story, what we do is we make Chad a much more compelling, interesting,
elevated,
great basketball. Honestly, making him a better, more established basketball player than Troy Bolton.
Right.
And Troy Bolton is the new up-and-comer who is trying to become the Chad Danforth.
Right.
We definitely need to rewrite this story, but
it's
there.
Troy does sports, Charles does sports. Troy does music, Charles does music.
Piano. Yeah.
So
What does Chad do?
Basketball. But pretty exclusively.
But he also, and we talked about the fashion, but at least he does have a vision for his look.
He
much
does.
like Lewis has a vision for his look.
He is styled in his aesthetic.
Yes, exactly.
But it's very specific. And
so we found that to be quite funny. That was a funny.
What are those two doing sitting in a tree?
Along with Lewis and Charles Leclerc, we've gotten some good content from Williams, Carlos, and Alex. Them together, them separate.
Sweet
and that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like they have put their hat in the ring to become one of the favorite duos of the grid. I think this was kind of them saying, sure, we know you love Lewis and Charles Leclerc. We know you love Oscar and Lando. I'm not really sure who else people gravitate towards these days, but I think they're kind of saying, no, like
we're here too.
We're here too. We're going to provide you great content. You're going to want to pay attention to us. We're going to be great on the track.
Well, I'm kind of excited for Alex because, like, not that his other teammates weren't great, but like, it's not easy to be good in social content and like do those little bits and stuff like that. And we know Carlos has always been good at that and is like up for the bit, and so is Alex in his like almost in his personal social media.
Yeah.
So the admins are in luck, I think, with that dynamic as well. I think that will be really fun. I'm excited to see them. They're
gonna be great. I'm very pumped.
Yeah,
for that
and the pictures of James just kind of adoringly looking at Carlos while he's speaking. It's just like so relatable.
I know. I mean, James has got himself a good little thing going.
Yeah, he really does. Proud of him.
Proud of him. He's come so far. We also got news that Yuki is going to be the Red Bull reserve driver, which makes a lot of sense because basically things have shifted around so much with Red Bull that they didn't really have an option to be their reserve driver. And Yuki's obviously like the most qualified, best person for the job. And so should there be, a situation with either of the Red Bull drivers, Yuki will step in. Now, obviously,
how does that work? Like, is then
someone
Bulls
their reserve will step in to
is that what we're calling them now? Is that what they're
yes. Will step into Yuki's seat. Now, obviously, I don't wish illness or an appendectomy on anybody like we've seen in the past. But it would be interesting if that was how Yuki got his shot in the Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, part of me was thinking, and this is not disparaging in any way. It's more just like a curious question. Max, do we think he would skip a race for the birth of his child? Because I kind of think no. And not like that it also wouldn't be expected of him to do something. I was listening to Kylie Kelsey on Allison, the Sunday Sports Club podcast. Yeah. I always call her name isn't actually Allison Kutch, but that's what I call her.
No, well, I
know. But she was basically saying like she could have gone into labor when Jason was in the Super Bowl, and she was basically told him like, you won't know until the game is over.
Right.
And
I feel like it's one of those things where if it's all about timing.
Sure.
So if she goes into labor on Sunday morning, I don't know that he would necessarily leave, but maybe if it happened the day before, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't think he would skip a race.
I don't think so either. I was just wondering if like that could be the moment for Yuki to shine in the Red Bull, and then like would he name his first child after Max or the name of Max's child
Yeah. Also because if you think about it, if he were to skip a race, that one race could be the difference between Max winning 100%. Or losing a championship or something, which so I don't expect it to happen, but you never know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm one of those people who it's like I don't cast judgment either way.
No, I don't either.
If you want to be there, if you don't.
I was just trying to think about the circumstances in which Yuki could actually fulfill his position as
well,
reserve
as we saw with Ollie last year, the different ways in which he filled in for Carlos, the appendectomy. He filled in for K-Mag, the race ban. Yeah. And then he filled in for K-Mag again because K-Mag got sick.
Oh, true.
So, like, there's many different ways in which.
Also, do we know if all the other drivers have their appendix or not? Like, I wonder, are we going to go 3 for 3?
That's what I'm saying. There could be an appendectomy on the cards. Don't wish it for
anybody.
No, of course
not. But I did, it's happened to me. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ideal.
It's not, comfortable. Anyway, just wanted to point that out as something to just keep an eye on. Should there be any movement this season? And then I just wanted to briefly touch on the news that has come out about the FIA in regards to fines, penalties, potential race bans due to swearing, other criticizing the governing body, making political statements, blah, 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 blah. Now, these sorts of things do occur in other sports. The NFL, NBA have rules in place that if players, if they do what is deemed to be an inappropriate touchdown celebration, they will get fined for that. If they make a political statement during a game, there was a situation this past season in which a player did something, he got fined. Those things happen. That's not out of the ordinary, shall we say. But the NBA, the NFL, these massive leagues have a players union, and that union then collaborates with the league in
Yeah.
terms of deciding and figuring out what is acceptable punishment, where those fines go. There's transparency
Right.
in what happens. There does not appear to be any sort of situation like that with Formula One. In fact, I saw that the Drivers Association found out about these fines and rules like we all did on social media.
Wow.
There was no conversation that
The
was
group
had,
chat was popping off, I bet.
which is sort of insane to
Yeah.
think about. And I just, there's so many different angles and ways to dissect this. I think the other thing too, which we talked about last year, when it came to the fines, especially, is like, where is the money going?
Right.
I mean,
that alone should be the
reveal-
most transparent part. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of everything else, I don't agree that the drivers aren't involved in like figuring out, like being on the same page and kind of collaborating on like what results in a fine. But to not have transparency on where it goes is so it just doesn't make any sense to me, because then it's like, okay, so you're deciding what the fines are.
right.
It's relatively subjective, it
Yes.
feels like.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, but are you using it for salaries? Like, are
Right.
you low on budget? Like, did you overspend and now you need to fine? Like,
It's crazy
it
because
just doesn't
Formula
make any
One
sense.
makes so much money. It's like this huge sport. I also saw too that you're not allowed to protest a steward's decision. Like that was in the rules.
I
Like a
just think it's
protest is
weird.
inadmissible, which is also weird because, and this was a whole other talking point that's come up recently. Well, it's been a talking point for a long time, but the fact that the stewards, that there's not,
that they're all part-time.
they're part-time stewards, they're not paid, and it's different stewards for different races. That to me is insane. People will say, well, the NFL has different officiating crews. Yes, they have different officiating crews, but they're all paid professional referees,
Yeah.
you know? The fact that you would have people, these types of decisions, again, they make or break, as we've seen in the past, they make or break championships.
Yeah.
They decide there's so many stakes involved. To not have consistency, or at least, because then at least you would know, like, okay, the stewards call things pretty tightly, or they're gonna, these types of moves are gonna be probably result in a 5-second penalty, 10-second. We know, but now it's like, well, okay, some tracks, some of the time that is a 10-second penalty. Other
Yeah.
times it's not. It just, the way that it's handled is, I don't know. To me, that's really crazy.
Well, they're just, when you are constantly changing the stewards, there is going to just be a lack of consistency.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. People have different perspectives. Like, people see things differently. Some people might be more lenient, some people might be more strict. But I think to have, like, I'm not arguing that like we should have a permanent crew of stewards at every single race and they're all the same, whatever. But it's like,
No,
there
I
should
actually think
be.
we should.
I mean, yes, but also, if let's baby steps here. Like, there should at least be one person. Like, there should be one consistent element, like human involved in the stewards, like who's making the final call.
Right. Well, also, wait, what was I just going to say? I think I just lost what I was going to shoot.
Oh, so what is, if you think about it,
Okay.
change tracks, but what's deemed as protesting?
Like if
A call.
this is, if you have, I'm assuming this is what they would talk about. Like, if,
like a challenge in football?
yeah.
I mean,
or,
to me, that's
or
crazy.
Like, yeah, and that's kind of been the whole thing. I think, again, not to keep bringing back up 2021 Abu Dhabi, but the when you read down the like rule book of of what the stewards can and can't do, because that's what a lot of people have done, right? It's like, well, by the letter of the law, these things should have happened or not have happened, and then therefore Max shouldn't have won, blah blah blah.
Right.
But then there's like but then basically at the end of it basically says, but everything comes down to the steward's discretion, something to that effect, essentially saying like, yeah, we have all these rules, but at the end of the day, the steward decides.
Right.
So
And
it's like,
how are we controlling that the stewards aren't being, like, they're not biased?
well,
they're
and
not-
what I was gonna say is, I also feel like when you like hire people and pay them as professionals, then that is their job, and
Right.
they are held to a standard for their profession. When you are just a volunteer steward, like there's less motivation to be
Sure.
getting the calls correct and to be having this sort of standard. I don't know. It just feels very JV
Yeah.
for a profession that is not JV.
Right.
So I just think there needs to be a lot of
Also, at some
self-reflection.
point, like, I just think it's so interesting when, like, the drivers are arguably one of the most important parts of the whole sport. Like,
Yeah.
what if they all just went on strike?
well, they probably
I mean, like, they just, like, there's a race weekend and they just don't get in their cars.
Right.
What are you going to do about that?
Right.
And, like, we're getting to a point that, like, George will rally a sit-in. Like, he will.
well, also too, the whole cursing thing, like, there is obviously the problem that I have too is that I understand. I don't believe that the cursing rule, and this might not be right, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that the cursing has to do with in the race itself.
That's how I've understood it. It's just in press conferences.
Yeah, I don't believe it has to do with in the race itself, though I could be wrong about that. And that could be part of what's changing is that it actually will impact.
It shouldn't be.
Which is crazy. It would be crazy because
be for real. Like, so they're a
if
sport that has to be mic'd up,
Yeah.
and now they're being penalized for just, like,
if we penalize or if we mic'd up every NFL, NBA,
Yeah.
soccer player, I mean,
the whole thing would be bleeped.
Yes. So, but there were instances like Charles Leclerc got fined last season for saying something, but it was very offhanded. It wasn't like there's a difference between cursing somebody out and being like F this person, F this thing. That there's intent, right? It's all about intent. And then there's a difference between being like just having an offhanded remark that includes a bad word. There's a difference in that. And that's where I feel like that's where the problem lies.
Right.
And it's just
you know, the
kind of
audience
ridiculous.
in those, like, are sports journalists.
Yeah.
Like, they're not.
Yeah.
It's not the queen, you know, may she rest in peace. Like,
or the king.
Yeah, they're king.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just like, they're not prudes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And again, there's a big difference between somebody verbally coming
Someone
at
saying
somebody.
F you too crofty.
Yeah.
Versus,
or, threatening violence on a driver or whatever.
Right.
Those things, of course, should not be allowed. But there's so that whole thing. And I just hope they find a way to kind of rectify this and figure out a way to make this just make more sense.
It's just a lot of
to just have more common sense.
Yeah,
I think we all can agree. So anyway, that's kind of the news recap of the week. Things that have gone down. We're now in February, so we're less.
Honestly, guys, I know there were so many jokes about it online, but I've genuinely never experienced a longer January in my life.
Yeah.
Anyone who is negatively affected by January in all of the ways, like, we're with you.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers.
My God.
But now we are
Longest year of
officially
my life.
less than 2 months away from the start of the F1 season, which is just thank the Lord.
I'm excited.
We did also, I should say too, we did find out, I didn't add this to the list, but we did find out that the Australian GP will be the Formula One Louis Vuitton.
Which is very cool. I
Australian
love the
Grand
promo
Prix.
shot with the tire treads.
Yeah. So fancy. So you can get Louis Vuitton on your side. So I think we can kind of, figure some stuff out when it comes to the
Very
stewards.
excited. I'm also, speaking of fashion, our friend Neha teased on social media that she did something with Adidas and just, in cheeky parentheses was like, F1 fans, keep a lookout.
The Mercedes Adidas collab.
Just very excited.
Yeah, I think that will be.
I didn't know it was Mercedes exclusively though.
Yeah, well, they're now a sponsor.
I forgot. So while I'm excited, I now realize that I probably won't partake. But
you never know. You never know.
Maybe. Yeah. You never know.
Okay, let's just dive into very quickly our Charlotte recap.
Yeah.
So we went to Charlotte this week for the 2025 Ford Performance season launch, which is basically a big day where they launched and talked about a lot of Ford's initiatives over the next couple years in all different racing categories. Obviously, we have a Formula One podcast, and Ford is working with Rebel Racing. They're going to be their engine providers in 2026, sole engine providers, but they made a lot of other exciting announcements. And, we got to work with Ford in Vegas this past year, which was awesome. And we just had like the best time with them.
Yeah. They're such a great team. Like, they're the nicest people.
Yeah. We said this when we were leaving. just like genuinely every single person we've ever interacted with Ford has just been A++++.
Top notch.
And so that was incredible. And just the whole thing was just planned to perfection.
Yeah.
You know, they pick us up from the airport. They bring us to the hotel. Hannah and I had separate rooms.
Yeah, I felt bougie.
Which was the first time in our entire, really probably in our entire friendship that we've ever gone on a trip and, you know, been able to have different rooms.
So true.
So thanks
for
for
our first year living together. We didn't have
that is so true. That is so true. So what do we do? So I guess that first night we went to a dinner reception thing at RFK Racing, which was very cool. They got to show us a lot of their like factory and their cars, and we were very fascinated by the organization of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, quite literally
nuts and bolts.
It was just so like I felt so. The guy that was giving us the tour, I think, was like found it charming, but like the bulk of this group are walking around and all this stuff's so cool. They're showing us like we couldn't take any film of it because a lot of it was like proprietary stuff. But then as we're walking down this hallway, there's just this wall of organized drawers of like nuts and bolts. And I was like, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, which was, you know, pretty humiliating.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. And then they have these vending machines, which I think are pretty normal in like warehouses and factories. But there's these vending machines that have like different drill bits. And so that like they have like the right inventory of drill bit. I don't know. I was just like, that's amazing.
It was very, very cool. And then Thursday, which was the day of the big launch, we got to go to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We got to do some hot laps. I got to do a hot lap with F1 Academy driver Chloe Chambers, who's going to be racing for Red Bull Ford this season, which was very cool. I mean, and all the times that we've gotten to do these very interesting, cool things, hot laps, whatnot, over the years, I've never done one with a female driver. So that was a very cool experience.
Yeah.
Frankie Muniz was there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to share your Frankie Muniz story.
Yeah, so he, and by the way, like I didn't get in any of the cars because I was so scared.
Hannah's too
I
scared.
had the opportunity, but I just politely declined and took B-roll. Because, you know, Zoe's got to be in the footage too. Yeah. I'm getting better.
Yeah. As we'll get to.
Yes. So we were sitting at lunch and there was like a panel going on. And I kind of like look over my shoulder and all of a sudden like Frankie Muniz is sitting with us because obviously. And he's just like the nicest person ever. And I mean, it just so happened. I think his teammate, Emma from Track Talk, I think had met him earlier. I believe his name is Keith. And he was sitting there. Anyway, it was all just kind of happenstance. And so I was like, okay, I can't let this moment go by. I think at least from when we were watching Dancing with the Stars, it's like this known thing that he has a pretty bad memory with a lot of things. And so I wanted to refresh his, that he knows us and that we're best friends. So anyway, after lunch, he's still kind of lingering. We chat and I turned to him and I said, so I'm not sure if you remember, but you took Zoe and I on a hot lap around Vegas. And he's like, oh yeah, I think you guys were like the first or second people I took. I was like, yeah. I said, and I just wanted to apologize for cursing at you. I was really scared. and really it was like, I haven't really been sitting with that because I did tell him beforehand that I probably would, but I just needed an opening line. So if you're listening to this, Frankie, I just wanted to say hey, and I didn't really know how. Anyway, but he's just the nicest. Then we were talking and he's like, I didn't see you out doing any hot laps. And I was like, well, right, because I'm terrified. And he's like, well, you know, when we were in Vegas, I was only doing like 70%. Like here, I can do like 90. And I was like, and that is why I'm staying on the firmly planted on the ground. Yeah. But he was nice. And then like later in the evening, we saw him again and he was like, so you never came back out for the hot lap? And I was like, well, I told you I was scared. And then also
I have to just we were saying not only is he nice, he's just incredibly personable. Yeah. So, you know, and he accepts his past as a Malcolm in the Middle child actor.
He just leans in.
Cody Banks. So we just, you know, as two girls who grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, like
my inner child,
we love Frankie Muniz and like, we couldn't be bigger fans. And just
he's just a delight.
Just the best.
Excited for
So if you ever see Frankie Muniz at any sort of racing event in the future, like go up to him, talk to him,
tell him hey.
10 out of 10, he's the best.
Yeah.
I got to do this crazy off-roading experience in this Ford Raptor, which is basically what they use for their off-road racing. It was the craziest experience ever. So we we're in this basically field and there's a gravel path, and then you just see the car go off
Disappear.
into the like you don't know where it's going. And there was only one of the cars, so it would be like one by one people would go and people would come back and they'd be like, oh my god, that was crazy, there were all these jumps, there were these this, that, the other. It was truly the most insane experience. We're like, basically by this big pond, we're like going in between trees, we're going off these like jumps. I mean, it was
I would have wept.
Yeah, I had the best time. It was very much like being on a roller coaster in a sense, and I love that. So I thought it was so fun. But when I was on it, I was like, Hannah would hate this experience. If I don't know if she's posted at this point, but if Emma from Track Talk has posted her GoPro footage of doing this experience, I urge every single person. I'll probably try to share it,
link it
in our stories when she posts it. The funniest onboarding I've ever seen in my life. It was so good.
It's so funny. And I think the best part is that you can't see the terrain. Like you don't know what she's seeing. Right. And so you kind of like can tell she's anticipating something, and then it's so funny. So funny. So that was really cool. Just like once again, they have all these different things to show you. You get to try all these things that you probably would never get to experience. Everyone that they invited to this day was also very, very nice. Yeah.
Like everyone was just there to take cool content, have fun.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. And then we got ready for the evening portion, which was like in this big event space. And there were lots of people there, but we before it kind of started, or before it like really kicked off, we got the chance to interview the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, which was crazy.
It's very crazy. He was so nice.
And we don't have that footage yet, but when it gets back to us, I'll make sure to share that on our YouTube channel. We asked him obviously about Ford coming back into Formula One and what that experience was like for them, how they're looking to handle the pressure expectation of, kind of, I don't know, continuing the success that Red Bull has had over the years, and if he feels any of that. We did a Ford and Formula One quiz with him,
which he did really well.
Yeah.
Which isn't surprising, but
yeah, he revealed to us who his 17-year-old daughter is a fan of, and it's not I love a Red Bull driver.
No, it's not, but I love how into, like, that she's super into it. I said, well, she really lucked out in the dad department given her current interests. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, it was super nice.
It was great. And then we got to interview Liam Lawson. Well, Hannah got to talk to him. Yes. You can share that.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was obviously a little nervous, but
you killed it.
Thank you. Very nice guy. And yeah, it was like, I don't think I've like quite processed that we've interviewed, well, like, cause you were there obviously, but like we've talked to our first F1 driver.
Yeah.
Like,
check.
Yeah.
Off the bucket list, which
is
exciting. Crazy.
But he was super nice guy. And yeah, we had fun. We bonded over, suits.
Yeah, you'll get to hear that. Yeah.
So yeah, clips coming soon, and then I think Zoe put together kind of a clip of the full thing that we'll put on YouTube at some point. But yeah, he was just super awesome, very nice, very relaxed. I'm really excited for him to have. I didn't think about it until we were talking to him, but one of the questions we asked was just like, how has it been different, like having, like knowing that you're going to start a full season and like having the time to prepare. And he was like, well, the first time was 12 hours and the second time was 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God. And of course, because I think I was either in shock or still like nervous that I was even talking to him. And so when I watched the clip back, I was like, how did you do it with 2 weeks? And I was like, how the hell did you do it with 12 hours? Like, that's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, he's a ledge. I'm excited for him. Love the new hair. Mm-hmm. Obsessed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was
times. Very fun. It was very cool to get to do that. And I mean, obviously the reason we got into this or started to do this podcast is just because we love talking about Formula One, mm-hmm. and we just, I don't know, wanted to share that with other people who like the sport the way that we do. But the fact that it's gotten us to a place where we could like talk to a Formula One driver, talk to CEO Ford.
Be friends with Frankie Muniz. Like, what the hell is going on?
Ask them questions. It is cool. And it's cool. What I really also appreciate is a company like Ford who appreciates and recognizes this specific subset of fans because like we've always said, you know, there's a lot of people who love Formula One the way that we all love Formula One, which is to say, like, we love the racing, we love all that stuff, strategy, whatnot. But then we also like to talk about, you know, the off-track things and the funny stuff and the Troy Bolton and Chad Danforth, like that kind of thing. That's not for everyone, but there's a lot of people who do like the sport that way. And I think you can kind of feel like you don't really belong. Like, you don't deserve to talk to these people because you're not a quote unquote serious fan. Yeah. But I like that they're like, no, you know, this sport is for everybody, regardless of when you got into the sport, why you got into the sport, yada, 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 which obviously we really appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. And we got to see Alice, who we know from Pepe Jeans, and she's the reason we met the Ford Performance team. And so it was a very full circle moment.
Shout out to Alice.
Yeah, she's a legend.
Yeah, and then, you know, they had this big, they had like a stage where they brought people on stage to kind of talk to them, again, from different racing series. They brought Liam out, Christian Horner, lots of other people, and then Ford, you know, makes all of these announcements. They're going to be joining WEC. They're going to be competing at Le Mans in 2027, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
They announced a Ford Performance Junior team. If you are interested in all the things that Ford announced on Thursday, you can go to the Ford Performance Instagram page, and they have all of their announcements and whatnot. But just big day for them.
Yeah, they've got a lot of cool stuff going on.
And just, again, as we said before, like, extremely well-oiled machine.
Genuinely.
Just great people, nice people, and also I was looking at the Abercrombie Ford merchandise. There were a couple of people on the trip who were wearing various jackets, but then also I saw, like, I was checking today some good Ford merchandise if you're looking out there.
That is good, because I was looking for like a cool jacket, and then of course I saw them all when we were like there. Thank goodness. But like Quentin's Ford jacket, and then Brooke had the Broncos one. I was like, this is sick.
Yep. So Abercrombie's got some good merch. I mean, they also have Red Bull merch, McLaren merch as well. I wish that Ferrari was like, I mean, they had their own thing going, obviously, but I wish we had some more like fun merch, you know.
Yeah.
But beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, I mean, you have Lewis and Charles now.
Exactly.
So you'll be fine.
I'll be so good. Knock on wood, please. The chair of
I really want them to. I hope they relaunch the baby blue hat though, because I'm still just desperate for it.
Yes. When was that? Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were on a manhunt for that blue hat. You
couldn't find it. Every time I went to something, like, oh, we're sold out. Oh, we're sold out. And someone was like, oh, I saw a couple. No, sold out.
What really needs? I mean, someone should have purchased when they got there day one, like on Friday or something, and someone should have purchased like 10 of them and then just upsold them. You know, like they could have really made a killing if they did that. I'm not encouraging that because obviously, but they were in high demand.
Yeah, and I think the lesson that I've learned is if I really like it, I should just buy it online, because sometimes I wait until we're at the track so I could justify it as a souvenir.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so I can wear it in real time. But
did you buy anything? Oh, you did buy something in Vegas. You bought that Red Bull hat, the beanie.
Oh yes, the beanie. I was like, no, they gave that to us. But yes, I did buy the beanie.
And then you bought the Valtteri bucket hat at some coda, one of the codas.
Yeah, I think that was the first one we went to. Yeah, because I had it on when we were in the turn 19.
Turn 19, yes.
TBT.
So who knows what you're going to buy this year? I mean, maybe it's the Ferrari blue, but could be anything. You kind of need to get what driver do you not have like merch for or team? I guess you have a McLaren.
I don't have any Williams stuff really. Oh, okay. I have a Williams beanie from Fifth Gear Garms.
Abercrombie might also have Williams stuff, right? Or maybe it's some other like Hollister or something like that.
But yeah, and I might need to do a refresh on my driver graphic tees, because a lot of the ones, well, I have obviously the Max ones, but not that I won't stop wearing Daniel or Kevin, but
yeah. Who'd you get next?
Maybe Alex Albon.
Wow.
Could be fun.
Not Orlando.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's a better call.
I mean,
no, I know.
I'm not trying to pressure you.
No, I understand. But I'm just thinking about like the faces on the shirt, and I think like Lando or Oscar might actually make more sense.
I was going to ask you, so this comes out today for everyone, but it's February 3rd. And then next Monday will be, I bet we'll record before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously Eagles versus the Chiefs. But do we think that, because Lando commented on Patrick Mahomes' Instagram, he was friendly with, we had that picture of him and Travis Kelce from last year in Miami.
Oh yeah, it was my background for a long time. I had to change it because of all the judgment I was getting.
You were getting judgment?
Anytime someone saw my phone, they were like, seriously? Because no one knew who Lando was. And I was like, yeah, that's a driver. It's an F1 driver. My two worlds collided, and I just got tired of talking about it. So now it's just my vision board for 2025.
You gotta make your inside, like the back, like your home screen.
Yeah, but then I can't see it because of all my apps, and it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's my vision board now.
But then I was gonna say, then we obviously know, Esteban. Well, not Esteban anymore. Pierre Gasly, Jack Doohan, Alpine.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any Philadelphia connections to any of these F1 drivers, but my
I don't know.
point is, do we think any F1 drivers will be going to the Super Bowl?
Yes, I'm curious to see who it will be. I would love to see Lando at the Super Bowl. I think that would be fun. My thing is, if we see them at the Super Bowl, it's like imperative for my brain that there's some sort of content with Patrick and or Travis.
There probably
even
won't
if
be
even
any
if the content is that they are wearing Chiefs gear, fine.
Sure. Yeah. The bummer is that it is not, because obviously last year was in Vegas, which I feel like is a more, it's a better kind of hub for like celebrity, whereas New Orleans, like, of course anyone can get to New Orleans easily, but it's not like,
it's not the same.
It's not the same as if you're coming from Europe. I don't know. It might be,
it's a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a hub for celebs.
I will say that anytime Daniel Ricciardo has gone to the Super Bowl, it has been the Chiefs, and they have won.
Okay. Well, hopefully he'll go. I mean, I could see him and Lando going together. Although I don't know why he would go, because
he's probably like, these Chiefs.
Yeah. Do you think Gigi and Bradley will go?
I do. I do think that they'll go. Yes.
Do you think that Blake and Ryan will go? Seems like it's weird times for them right now.
Yeah. Who knows? I could see it going both ways. Wouldn't be shocked either way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm just excited to see who Taylor has in the suite. I'd be curious to see who Bradley has in the suite. I don't know if Gigi and Taylor are still friends, but I'd love to see. Yeah. I figured they are, but I'd love to see, a house divided, hanging out.
I bet they're not in the same suite.
I know they won't be in the same suite, but I would like, a hug of,
We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening.
And I just want to say, like, I'm really sorry for all of those of you who don't want the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl. I really genuinely, we both completely understand how annoying it is. When it was always the Patriots, it was always a big eye roll. And
well, it's very similar to Formula One. You had the Merc dominant years, the Red Bull dominant years. Max has won 4 championships in a row. There's a lot of people who are over that. But you know what? We also got to celebrate greatness.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna. Obviously, we're leaning in and very excited because it's a team we support. But
this is history.
Yeah, it is.
So let's all root for history.
Yeah, go Chiefs.
But if you're a Philadelphia fan, also that's awesome and excited for you and that's wonderful. It's great to support your team in all things. We are very strong believers in that. So anything else you'd like to add before we...
I don't believe there is.
Well, I'm not sure what we're going to do next week for an episode. We might do like a AMA or something. We'll figure out. If you have any suggestions for an episode next week, if there's no like big news to cover, let me know. DM us and maybe we'll do it for next week.
You can say DM me.
Well,
DM the podcast. There's a 99.9% chance Zoe will be responding.
Stay tuned on all of our socials for some of the content, the Liam Lawson clips that I'll be sharing this week, and just all the other things. And we'll see you guys next time.
Enchanté.